It's like, what does an interrupting cow sound like? Moo! Dudes to Dads is a podcast to help men understand and navigate the transition of being a single dude into a family man. How do we make sense of it all? Well, we probably won't be able to, but let's go ahead and have some fun trying. And we are back.
We're back.
Did you hear the big breath beforehand? It's like I have to get ready to talk. I'm Jason Kreidman.
I'm Alan Bush.
And this is Dudes to Dads. In fact, let's let everybody know how they can reach us.
Yes.
At dudestodads.com.
Right.
No, wait, I'm sorry. At Dudes to Dads is our Twitter.
Right. Exactly.
Dudestodads.com is a website.
Is a website.
They can also reach us.
Podcast at dudestodads.com.
That's our email. And then also, if they would subscribe to the podcast via iTunes, they can also leave a 5-star review.
Please do that if you could. Do nothing else.
That helps us.
It helps us
in the ratings. Everything.
Yeah.
How are you doing today, Alan?
I am doing well, thank you. It's been
another
a
long day.
Yeah, a long day, but good, but a good one.
Yeah, we record these, as I often mention, because we do it. It's a little bit later at night.
It's after work.
A full day of work.
It's our fun time.
And life. This is fun time. I actually do look forward to this stuff.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fun.
The preparation is sometimes a little bit more crunching.
Yeah.
I won't say it's not as fun, because sometimes it is fun to learn new stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't always know everything.
So
I know it's hard to believe.
Yeah, it is.
It's hard
I'm
to
having
believe.
trouble believing that.
I know. I totally pretend like I know what I'm talking about. But here's what's good is that I get other people, like we've had some great interviews recently.
Yeah, some really good ones. Yeah.
And then also I get articles and stuff, so I don't have to pretend like I know what I'm talking about.
You're learning as you go as well.
I'm learning as we go.
Yeah.
I do know a couple things.
Right. And I'll take your word for most of the things that I don't know.
We teach each other.
Exactly.
You teach me how to be a dude.
I'll teach you how to rekindle your dudedom.
I need it. I am so far from being a dude. In fact, I was just talking to somebody about sports cars and remembering when I used to have a sports car.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was sad. I totally thought of the podcast and it's like, I'm a dad.
We should have a dude episode.
I lost my dude episode.
You know what? We should probably do a dude episode from like a sports bar or something.
That might not be
and then talk about cars and sports and stuff.
That would be cool.
Let's do that.
I mean, it's not that a dad can't have those things.
No, of course not. That's why we should do it.
But that's a good excuse to get out.
I'll tell your wife.
Yeah. No, she'll be cool. She's like, all right, go have fun. So this episode is, although we're joking and having fun and everything else, it's a very serious topic. Not as serious as some of the other ones we've had.
Yeah, we've had some heavy topics.
We've had some heavy topics. But this one is about consistency.
Yeah.
Now, in the past episode, we have talked about all kinds of different things, essential ingredients, if you will, in parenting. And I labeled these things called the 7 C's.
Yeah.
The letter C.
Yeah.
So this is another one of these, and this is consistency.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is a real key ingredient in being a good father or father success, however you want to do it. Mm-hmm. We all hear it about consistency, but really how many of us practice it?
Right.
So, children prefer consistency and, they know what to expect. They crave routine. I mean, this really starts when the baby is born.
Right.
When you are in the hospital, they will tell you, be consistent with the feedings and bath time and sleeping, make sure that, all these things that they're telling you when you have no clue what you're doing.
Right.
Or you read the books of what to expect and all these other things. The reality is that it makes your life a little more predictable.
Yeah.
And calmer.
Yeah.
Now,
easier to manage, I would think.
Easier to manage.
Yeah.
Now, I will say, when you are so routine and so consistent that breaking it, especially when you have a newborn,
you
freak out. This happens for moms and dads,
especially type A's.
Oh, yeah, you should see how I dealt with it. No, they're not in bed yet. Why
it's
is
9:02?
Why is he not down? Yes, it is 2 minutes past the time. So you got to be careful.
Yeah.
Versus I knew other parents that had their children. It's like, whenever they go to sleep, they go to sleep. Whenever they want to eat, they eat. And it's like, really? How do you do that?
Yeah.
But maybe they're not routine people. So both
Right.
myself and my wife are, quote, routine people.
Yeah.
Eating, exercising, work. We do things very, in somewhat routine. I'd say
Sure.
my wife, and there's parts of it that she's a little bit less in some things
Yeah.
and some more in others.
Yeah.
But, as a child gets older, rules and expectations are the same from one time to another,
Yeah.
so there's some consistency. The world's a little less confusing. And I think it frees them from like worrying about what happens next,
Yeah.
and sometimes, parents, if anybody is wondering, like, I don't get this. And, you don't have to be consistent. You have to be more free, whatever. If you ever see a child watch a movie, they want to watch the same movie over and over. And
Yes,
over.
yeah.
And over and over and over, by the way.
Exactly. Same with songs, too.
Oh, you want to read this book tonight?
Yeah.
You realize we've read this book 15 nights in a row.
They're like, and?
And I want to keep reading it. Oh, you wore that costume the last 2 weeks every single day.
Yeah.
I can't wash it anymore. It's ripping, They like routine, consistency, etc.
Yeah.
And so there was an article I read this. It was off about.com. 3 basic ways that fathers can demonstrate consistency. Mm-hmm. So you can have consistency in rules and consequences. That's a big one. Mm-hmm. Consistency between parents. That's a big one too. Like mom says this, dad says this, or, and especially, or if you happen to be separated or divorced, that's a really important thing, is the consistency of co-parenting.
Yeah.
And then consistency in routines. Mm-hmm. So that wasn't necessarily enough depth for me. So I looked further.
Okay.
And I've got some information on, kind of why consistency is important. But before we do that, I want to ask you, do you feel like you had consistency as a kid?
Kind of, sort of. I moved around a lot as a kid. So when I was really young, I went from Los Angeles to Mill Valley to a variety of other locations before I was even 6 years old. And then 6 years old, I moved.
So that's within school, or you were already in school?
Well, I was partially in school. I was in kindergarten and then first grade. I actually skipped it.
So that was inconsistent there.
Well,
but what
no.
about routine at the house?
At the house, when I started, I moved to Massachusetts when I got to be about 6, and between 6 and 12, there was consistency. Dinner was at a certain time, generally speaking. On Fridays we might have a more relaxed, light day.
Sure.
We'll go out and get something.
But you recall routine.
I do recall routines, yeah. And
you have to do your homework this time. You have to do, this time. There was routine,
right?
Somewhat.
Yeah,
you knew what was expected.
I knew what was expected of me at what times and
Yeah.
or what days.
Right.
So definitely.
Yeah, and I wonder how that affects us now. I mean, it's interesting to look at that, because for me, I think I had a lot of routine. I mean, we very consistent parenting.
Yeah.
That's a big one too. I mean, just being consistent in the parenting itself,
right.
And that's a lot of what we're talking about. It's not only the consistency of rules and regulations and things like that, which comes into play, but just being a consistent person.
Yeah.
In general.
Yeah.
People know what to expect.
Yeah.
When you're inconsistent, sporadic, it's kind of sometimes difficult to deal with.
Yeah.
And you may know people like that.
Sure.
Unpredictable.
Yeah.
They might be fun once in a while to be around.
Yeah, they're fun sometimes, and then they're
fun
not
to
so
date
fun.
for a week.
Yeah. Yeah, good point.
Or friends to have in a short period of time during whatever
short
period
bursts.
you're going through.
Yeah.
College.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
But beyond that consistency for me is very weird and uncomfortable.
Yeah. Because if you don't know when a person might fly off the handle or not know where they're coming from, then I feel uneasy around people like that.
Right.
I generally like people who are consistent with their behaviors with me.
Sure. No, you know what to expect.
Exactly.
So the University of Alabama. So like I said, I wanted to expand.
Wow, you went university status.
I went total university on this. Well, I was really wanted to look at. I like that idea in the article from about.com, which I'll post on the page for this episode.
Okay.
But I really wanted to get deeper because those are 3 basic rules, but I want to get a little bit deeper of like why is consistency important? Mm-hmm. If I'm going to be consistent as a parent, why? What does it matter?
Right.
What's the effect on the kid? So this, I think this was either a study or it comes through their sort of child development area. And I'll put the link to this as well. The first thing is it gives the child a sense of security. Mm-hmm. So I think that absolutely is true, where the child, they feel secure in knowing what comes next.
Yeah.
That's and feeling secure is, I think, a life requirement.
Oh, sure.
We all want to feel secure.
Yeah, I think that's like I could be mistaken.
It is. I know what you're going with
Maslow's
that.
hierarchy of needs?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I think that's what you're,
I'm alluding to
your
that.
college psychology.
Yeah, it's coming right back.
We all want to feel that way. We want to feel secure in our jobs, in our relationships, all kinds of things. You want to feel secure. Having security for most people
right.
is a good feeling.
Yeah.
Now, there are outliers.
Sure.
Some people hate, quote, security.
They don't even mistake it for boredom.
Well, financial security, who doesn't want that?
I really want to be broke all the time.
Yeah, but let's say somebody who's nomadic or
they may not put priority on that.
Yeah. They like the idea of freedom and free will and being able to do whatever they want.
Yeah.
Security to them could be stifling.
I have a friend that's that way. He lives in hostels and just takes jobs where it just gives him the most amount of freedom to do what he wants.
Got to be a mellow dude.
He's a mellow. Yeah, but ironically,
I need to hang out with him a little more.
Well, he's a little bit on the other end of that. But the thing is, he's a really smart guy, and he wanted to be like a computer programmer when he was younger, and then all of a sudden he lived out in the woods and decided, I'm not doing that anymore.
Right.
He literally went to the woods and lived there for a while.
Yeah, some people, I guess you could thrive on insecurity.
Yeah.
The idea of, security doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
There's an adrenaline, whatever that feeling is. Excitement.
Sure.
Sure. Not being secure is exciting.
Yeah.
But for kids,
generally
not as good.
No, yeah.
They also find, so here's another one, children of consistent parents experience less anxiety.
Okay.
So, and it kind of goes with that. You're going to have less anxiety in the child when it's predictable.
Yeah.
They're not worried about what comes next. Mm-hmm. What am I going to do here? What time is this? What am I supposed to do in this situation? And I think parents thrive on that too, because it's like, what am I supposed to do in this situation?
Right. Yeah.
We're faced with things. We want consistency.
Yeah, sure.
I think that's really, really important thing. Another one, daily routines cause a more peaceful home life.
Yeah.
I can tell you that one. So as an example, which I think I had mentioned to you before, we have a daily time chart in the mornings. Mm-hmm. It needed to be modified a little bit recently because of some things we're doing in the mornings before school, but basically says, wake up at this time, eat breakfast, get dressed, with some sort of time. My kids loved it. Mm. They actually enjoy. It wasn't like, oh, there's rules, blah, blah. They did not. They liked the fact that it was posted.
Yeah.
They could see it. They could follow it. And they have somewhat now after 16 years. No, I'm just kidding. After a short amount of time, somewhat. My son, who's 7, has a little bit better understanding than my daughter.
Sure.
Who's saying, hey, it's 7:00. We should be. He now kind of knows the routine.
Yeah.
I think he's ready on time every day.
That's great. That's amazing.
Like, I don't have to push him very hard. There's some things. Hey, where are you right now? Like, did you eat?
Yeah.
That kind of thing. But
right.
I shouldn't say that I never push him, I guess.
No, but very rarely.
Yeah, or it's a little bit. It's not as much as I was in the past.
Sure.
There's a little bit better understanding of the routine. They know what time, and they're excited to get to school.
Yeah.
They actually, they enjoy it. So it's like, they don't necessarily love getting up, but they're actually, for kids, they're pretty good. Like I said, they're pretty. I've said that in previous episodes. They have a happy. They wake up happy.
Yeah.
So that's an important thing. So the routine also then for the parent is predictable too. So okay, this is bath time. We're gonna brush teeth. Then we read a book. Then we go to sleep, or whatever. The pajamas. You have a routine, and that routine helps make it a little bit more peaceful.
Sure.
Because you'll find, especially the witching hour, as I said, 4 or 5 on is not easy all the time.
Yeah.
Especially with toddlers and stuff.
Right.
The other one. So why is consistency important? It helps develop their sense of responsibility because they know what's expected of them.
Yeah.
So they have some sense of accomplishment too.
Yeah.
That sense of responsibility to say, hey, you know what? Here's what I'm responsible for. I got to get my backpack. I got to get my lunch. I got, if we're talking about the morning routine, they are able to develop that sense of responsibility. And I think that's important.
I think that carries over to their adulthood at that point.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Another one, consistent rules cause less pushing of limits.
Okay.
Which is interesting. They quickly learn that no means no.
Right.
So if you have consistent rules, our children know that this is a rule. They're not going to push it too much.
Yeah.
Like, remember we talked about desserts?
Yep.
We have a dessert rule, if you will, that unless it's a special occasion, desserts are Friday and Saturday. Like, that's just our family thing.
Whatever. Yeah.
It doesn't totally preclude them from or remove them from asking sometimes.
Right.
But they kind of know.
Yeah.
And it's not that hard to say, well, that's what we do. That's a rule.
Yeah.
It's Friday and Saturdays. That's our dessert nights.
Yeah.
So on a Tuesday night, my daughter's not saying, hey, can we have dessert?
Right. Yeah.
There's a rule.
And if she does, you just look at her.
Well, you
rule.
say, yeah, no, I said, hey, what, is it Friday? What day of the week is it?
I like that logic.
Sometimes they don't know.
Can we have dessert? Is it Friday?
Yeah. Yes, it is. Oh, I totally forgot. It is Friday. Well, sometimes
did slip away from
well, sometimes like the weekend will come and I'm like, oh, that's right. It is the weekend.
Yeah.
It creeped up. Yeah, totally creeped up. And they don't think they don't know exactly what day it is as it relates to dessert.
Sure it's Friday then.
Yeah. I've only had 16 Twinkies and 4 pieces of gum and 6, that's not enough, Dad. I need more sugar. Less temper tantrums, arguing and bargaining as they grow. I think it's just the same thing. There's the temper.
Yeah.
We won't even edit that. Temper tantrums and arguing often comes because they want something that you're saying no to.
Right.
And so when they quickly learn that no means no from the consistent rules, they're going to be less likely to throw that tantrum because they know it's not going to work.
Right.
It just
Yeah.
Logic.
Makes sense. Yeah, absolutely.
They throw tantrums because it works.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So if you don't let it work,
right,
they're not going to throw them as much.
Exactly.
They're going to try some other method.
Right, yeah.
Oh, you mean you're going to ask nicely and ask
Yeah.
please? Absolutely.
Yeah.
That works.
You can manipulate me with kindness.
Because kicking your hand or hitting your hands on the floor, not going to work.
Yeah, the floor didn't do anything to you.
How's that working for you? My wife likes to say that. Doesn't, hey, how's that working for you?
Yeah, I've said that to people.
Totally.
Yeah. How's that working out for you?
Yeah. I don't think that's a parenting gem.
No, it's a snide comment, but it
totally works.
It works.
And then the other thing of why the consistency is important, really because inconsistency can cause confusion, poor self-esteem, and oftentimes negative values. That's pretty bold, but I think that can be the case.
I would agree with that, because when things are in kind of turmoil or chaos, or you're not sure where things are coming from, then you don't have a sense of yourself. I can say that even as an adult, that when I was going through my kind of financial burden times, when I getting my car about to get repoed when I first moved down to San Diego,
right?
And I'm not thinking about self-improvement. I'm thinking about where am I going to get my next meal, right, and where am I going to get my car out of this repo thing, like all and then my negative self-esteem, and I think about all the crazy stuff I need to get into to make more money, and like I can sell drugs or something. I'm not saying that's what happened, but I'm just saying that like those thoughts start crossing my mind. You start delving down. Desperation starts happening, right, and it happens pretty frequently. People who are in destitute situations, they put themselves in harm's way,
right, because
they're in that situation.
Right.
Whereas if they had those needs met, or it had consistency in that,
consistency is waking up and going to a job every day.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Or if they had some kind of financial income or stream or whatever, then like you said, financial security or whatever, then they wouldn't think about those things.
Right.
They can work on self-improvement a lot more.
Well, which leads us perfectly to how can we be more consistent?
Yeah.
So that's something that we're going to talk about.
Okay.
So here's the things, especially with kids, how do we be more consistent? I think the first thing they said is, just pick a few rules to start and stick to them.
Okay.
Just pick a few rules.
Well, like your dessert thing.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, so we have...
Does Yonanas count as a dessert?
That's a good question.
It's fruit.
sometimes if we're feeling okay, it might not.
Oh, okay.
You know,
Okay.
fruit is typically okay. I mean,
Yeah.
But we don't do that all the time either.
Sure.
But you don't want to overwhelm them. So like another thing in our family is we actually made a family rules poster, which I think I talked to you.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So we had like 10 rules, and these are, quote, our family rules. And we came up with them with the kids helped come up with them. And we said, like, what are the rules that are of our house? And we tried to be positive. I think all of them are positive, meaning like what to do versus what not to do. Mm-hmm. All of them are that way, except maybe one, which says like, don't be mean or no, that's not that. I'll have to figure that one out. As an example, like one of the rules is eat good stuff before bad, which we've talked about before.
Yeah.
So that's just a rule in our house. Eat good stuff before bad stuff.
Yeah.
And they know what bad stuff is, whatever. And then it's not saying we can't eat it, just saying we got to eat good stuff before that.
Yeah.
So that's our
makes
rule.
Sense.
Another one, use nice words.
Okay.
So we don't say don't be mean. We say use nice words.
Right.
That's a rule. So what can happen is that this kind of, these posting of the rules allows us to be consistent in these areas. And you can actually point to the rule and say, hey, was that using nice words?
Yeah.
Did you eat good stuff before bad?
Right.
These are our family rules. These is what we all abide by, all of us.
Yeah.
My kids, I won't say where they went,
Okay.
but we said we had a weekend away.
Yeah.
And they came back and they said, yeah, we had ice cream for breakfast. It's not a big deal, but it's just funny because it's like, they're not in our house.
Yeah, yeah.
We didn't make that rule. Yeah. So, when they're away.
I didn't think about that. Like, the rules are for the house.
It's in our house.
It's your house.
Right.
But,
they were at somebody else's house.
No. Dad, it wasn't like we had the rule. The poster wasn't even up.
Right. Totally. Which, and you know what? I didn't get upset at that.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, that's a treat for being away.
Right.
And somebody else watched. That's cool.
Yeah. Okay.
It's not,
Okay.
it's almost like this wasn't at grandparents, but I've seen that like a poster or a pillow or whatever that says, what happens at grandma's stays at grandma's. Kind of in that sense.
Yeah.
Like, if it's at a relative's, like it's whatever.
Yeah.
And that feels okay because of how routine our house is.
Sure.
And the kids really enjoy that. It's such a treat for them that it's like, I'm not going to stifle that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, hey, how was it? Was it good? You liked it? Cool. Like you're not getting it now. Enjoy it while you can.
Say that moment. Hope you took pictures. Never happening again.
We have to go back home now. No. But it allows that freedom to do that kind of stuff and not, and not for me
freak
to,
out.
not for me to get upset.
Sure.
And so I think picking a few of the rules, for us, it's a 10, those are our family rules. We may have more or less, whatever.
Yeah.
But we try to stick to those.
Yeah.
So the second thing is be prepared to enforce the rules.
Right.
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
Because you have to pick rules that you are willing to enforce.
Yeah.
And you, quote, have to be consistent.
Yeah.
And that's not easy.
Right.
It's not easy at all. Like, and also an example, like when you have a newborn and you are trying to teach them to sleep through the night, you may have a rule because you've, learned it, whatever. So, you let them cry it out. Like a lot of parents will do this. Other ones don't, whatever. But just one type is letting them cry it out. So you do it for like 2 nights. You let them cry it out. And then the third night you let them, they're crying longer and you are freaking out. Because you cannot believe that you're letting your child cry and you're not grabbing them. It's especially the first child. Second child, well, they cried, we went and grabbed them.
Yeah.
You didn't care. But first child, you're supposed to do this. This is what we were taught to do. And we totally broke the rule at some point. It's like, okay, forget it. Now we got to go back to the, And so you have to be consistent in that kind of stuff.
Sure.
If you are trying to teach or you're trying to do something or whatever. It's funny because at the time it's like you think it's the end of the world, and it's like it's so not. Like our second child, she cried. We walked in, helped her, held her up. Like the child was crying. She's fine. She sleeps wonderful now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Granted, you might get your child to sleep through the night a little early. We were pretty at it. Like we were pretty military about it. Like so we were good with that. But And it produced kids that sleep through the night.
Yeah, right.
know?
Yeah.
They're fine. We don't have evening problems, except maybe getting to bed sometimes.
Sure. But once they're there.
Once they're there, they're there. But
Yeah.
I've seen some horror stories, the horror situations of kids just not getting a full night's sleep, and they wake up and they cause terror.
Yeah.
And part of it is just being consistent.
Yeah.
That's really about what the consistent's about. And so this one is do not give up even when it's really hard. So that may lend itself more to the crying baby or something like that.
Right.
Or, when you say we don't do this and all of a sudden we do it just because you're tired, you don't want to deal with it. That happens all the time too.
Sure.
No. Okay.
There was a Simpsons. He was like, they were asking him to go somewhere, and he's like, no. Ask your mother.
Totally. Well, so this brings up the next one. Good. You didn't even see it. If you disagree as parents, talk privately towards a compromise.
Yeah, that totally makes
There
sense.
has to be that consistency
You're gonna have each
between the
other's
parents,
back.
which that other article said about the consistency between parents, whether you're married, co-parenting, whatever.
Yeah.
Consistency among both parents is really, really important. And sometimes I could see how that's difficult in situations, but you have to make that effort to try to do that.
Yeah.
And be consistent. Praise positive behavior, which we've talked about. Sometimes you got to be careful on how much you do that. Praising is good, or reinforcing positive behavior is good, but not necessarily. I don't necessarily believe in like reward all the time. Saying like, "Hey, thank you for doing that." Great. But I'm not as for me personally and my family, giving them stars and money, and I'm trying not to do that as much.
Yeah.
That's just not my thing. But praising them is okay. Or
of course.
hey, thanks for doing that, or that was really helpful.
Yeah. Who doesn't want to hear that?
Yeah. I mean, my son the other day he was helping his sister and just made just an awesome gesture.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, thank you so much. That was really, really, you can see him kind of smile.
Yeah.
And he didn't do it for that reason.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. But he didn't do it for that.
No, but it's just the reward for being that kind of person.
Yeah. And it was like, you know what? You really are, great. And
he probably responds well to positive reinforcement.
He does.
So that he wants to do those things because it feels good to do them.
Yeah. That's the key too. Is it feels good to do it, but you got to be careful with the child going after stuff for the praise.
Yeah. Right.
Which, it's just, so you got to be careful. There's sort of that line of doing that. The other one, which we talked about in the coaching episode, which is adjusting your approach per child because they're each unique.
Yeah, right.
So
certain people might have different strengths and weaknesses,
consistency with your children might look different with each child.
Right.
You're consistent with one thing versus another. Each child's unique and different, and so you want to make sure that you are adjusting your approach that way.
Right.
So all of these things, I mean, we ultimately want, as I mentioned, to, help develop responsible, secure, confident young adults. Consistency is really, really important.
Right.
And it's not, I don't think parents aren't aware of that. It's just really practicing it, and when you practice that in your own life and your own consistency, so that, like I said, that can be with rules and consequences. It can be between the parents. It can be routines. It can be whatever. Consistency is a very key ingredient in being a good father.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And making sure that, both parents are, but as you can only sort of handle yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
And deal with yourself. That, and I think it rubs off too, with spouses and things, is when you are consistent, just like it does rub off with the children. When you are consistent, the other wants to be consistent too.
Yeah. In relationships in general, I think it helps that way with your parents, with your significant others,
absolutely,
with your kids, it's friends.
No, totally. So any feedback on the consistency, we'd love to hear it. podcast@dudestodads.com. Anything else, Alan, before we close this up?
No, go to iTunes and give us 5 stars and just leave us a comment if you want, but let's get those votes in there. It really helps out the podcast. So go iTunes or Stitcher, leave some comments and some feedback. We appreciate that.
Another week, another episode.
Yeah.
And I think we will see you next week.
That's right.
All right.
Take care, guys.